Hello and welcome to Only Stupid Answers. My name is Sam Basher.
My name is DJ Wooldridge.
Today we're diving into Dr. Sleep. Ooh, boy, howdy. We got some thoughts on this one.
Yes.
Quickie synopsis. Years following the events of The Shining, a now adult Dan Torrance meets a young girl with similar powers as he tries to protect her from a cult known as the True Knot, who prey on children with powers to remain immortal. Now, this is directed by Mike Flanagan, of course, adapted by Stephen King's novel, and also the screenplay is written by Mike Flanagan as well,
yes.
which is pretty cool. And this stars Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, Jacob Tremblay, Cliff Curtis does an amazing job, and Kylie Curran.
She did great.
And Carl Lumbly. Just a lot of really good actors in this movie.
And currently, Dr. Sleep has a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes with a critic's consensus. Dr. Sleep forsakes the elemental terror of its predecessor for a more contemplative sequel that balances poignant themes against spine-tingling chills.
I think that's pretty...
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like a trashy critics consensus, but the score's kind of... I'm surprised how low it is.
An audience score, though,
Is 95%.
Yeah,
audience score is 95%.
That's a little high, but you're kind of getting a picture of that overall audiences are enjoying this. Got to get this out of the way up top.
Yeah.
I have not seen The Shining. I have seen Dr. Sleep. You have seen The Shining.
I have seen The Shining.
And what are just quickie thoughts on The Shining?
It's great. It's Stanley Kubrick. It's amazing. It's like a lot of Stanley Kubrick's work. It's kind of like a little bit cold and clinical. But it is, there's a reason it's a classic. There's a reason it's as beloved feels like the not right. I mean, it is beloved, but like it's the reason it's terrorized generations of people. And going into this movie, the trailers leaned heavily into two things. One was, hey, remember The Shining? And two, a bunch of like jump scare looking clips from
Monsters,
the movie. Yeah. Oh no, the head's behind her head. What's she gonna? Whatever. And the one that made me more nervous was the Shining stuff, because it's just one of those like don't force audiences to compare your movie to a stone cold classic. Like you're not going to compare favorably. But, and I will say the beginning and the end of this movie lean heavily on, hey, remember The Shining? To, I think, lesser effect. To the point there's some stuff in the beginning that feels like a stage production version of The Shining. But for the majority of the movie, I found it very engaging and engrossing. And the story it's telling of Danny basically dealing with alcoholism and the sins of his father in a more heightened environment, to be incredibly engaging. Ewan McGregor's great, always, forever, and ever. Abra, the little girl he's supposed to save, is amazing. Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat is an incredible antagonist. And the way it lays out its story, it gripped me. I was on board. What did you think?
As someone who didn't know, I was walking into the movie theater. Big thanks to Collider for putting this screening together. That was very nice of you guys.
Yeah, so check out Collider.com for other such screenings.
And they do a bunch of these, and keep your eyes out this week, because they said they have more announcements. So it's pretty exciting. So as I was walking in, I was told that I should have watched The Shining going into this. Couldn't really change it then. I had an hour, so we're just going to make it work.
Yeah, you just watch it on triple speed. You'll be good to go.
Netflix nobody wants Netflix to have the 0.5 speed. Yeah. I'm not going to get into that. Yeah. Watching this movie as someone who knows enough about The Shining. Yeah,
because it's part of the cultural firma.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It has been adapted and nodded at in multiple forms of media.
Yes.
Shout out to the Alamo Drafthouse that literally has the carpet, and when you walk in there, that is not a diss. It is beautiful, and it's just go to the Alamo Drafthouse, go support it. I very much enjoyed this movie through and through. I understood enough of it. It explains enough that you're able to understand this character, this tragically that Dan's been through it, man. Like from childhood to adulthood, he has made mistakes, and mistakes might be too kind of a word to the kind of things that have happened in his life. But you see that he's troubled, and seeing how he factors into this wider world of The Shining, and who Rose the Hat and her and the True Knot and who they are, and Abra, it's deeply compelling. And the way they explore the abilities of these characters and just the overall threat in this movie, I was sold, and I understood everything I needed to. There's plenty of movies out there that have taken a dive into like psychic abilities, but the way this movie specifically chooses to deal with it, and these threats and these people going head to head. Yeah. Really cool. Yeah. Mike Flanagan does I have to, what I've heard from some fans of the original novel. There is a novel that is a follow-up to The Shining.
Yeah, it's
both
this
written by
weird
Stephen King.
It's this weird like triptych where it's a based off of the Dr. Sleep novel, but it's also a sequel to The Shining,
which is
the movie,
yeah,
and also but it's also a sequel to The Shining. But like it's this weird balancing act it has to accomplish.
I've heard from a good chunk of the fans who have seen this movie that they did a good job. And Mike Flanagan, there's evidence that he did a very good job. He's adapted Stephen King properties before.
Yes.
And also his work on Haunting of Hill House. The book is much different from the series, but overall, the liberties that he did take made for a compelling Netflix series. I think it's one of their top series of all time.
Yes.
So I think he now has my trust when it comes to adaptations or just original properties, because I'm also a fan of Hush. I think he does a really good job with that. You should check that out. That is also on Netflix. A very good thriller if you just want a quick one, if you don't want to watch a whole Haunting of Hill House, or 2 hours and 31 minutes of Dr. Sleep. That is a long one, but I do recommend that you do check it out, because it treats your audience, it treats the audience like they're intelligent individuals that are able to follow enough plot lines, and also they do a good job making you understand the character without having to tell you too much.
Agreed.
You're able to understand Dan from the get-go, because you get these tiny little vignettes of different moments where he could make a better decision, but due to his own mental state and a million other factors, he doesn't, and he messes up. But you get to kind of see this road to recovery. I think it's fair to say that he has a problem with alcohol, and you're able to see this road to recovery in multiple ways in the beginning, in the first 15 minutes of this movie, that I find just deeply touching. It made me tear up in the beginning of the movie, and then from there we get into our main threat with Abra, Rose the Hat, and the rest of the True Knot, and what this world looks like for these people that have the Shining, and these people who want to be immortal. And you mentioned as we were walking out of the theater that this film does a good job balancing. You kind of have three stories.
Yeah,
you have Dan's, you have Abra's, and you have Rose's, and throughout it, you get a sense of empathy. You are empathetic towards Abra and Dan.
Yeah.
You're able to understand, Abra is a child. There's any mess up.
She's great. Yeah, she's great. She's solid. She's a good person. The actress is incredible. Abra's doing all right.
Yeah, and Dan, you see
more conflicted.
You see more conflicted, and with Rose, she's our antagonist. She's our villain, and she's doing. You see her do objectively horrific, nightmarish things.
It is fair to say that she is a monster.
But there are these little moments with her talking with her Crow Daddy, but also the rest of her followers. Basically, they're kind of like a family, but she's like that matriarch of the family.
Yeah,
you get a feeling where you almost feel bad for them. There's these moments where they have these heart to hearts where they talk about their needs and wants and everything.
Yeah.
And in any other movie, it's Starscream going up to Megatron, be like, "We need more, we energy," and it's you automatically know they're bad. But there's the performances from everyone in this group do a good job where you're like, "Oh, they're people," and then they do a thing, and you're like, "Never mind, you guys are basically vampires."
It's like when you run into people in the world that are just awful people, but there's that part of you that realizes that
they don't see it that way.
They're missing a piece. They're missing something that they're trying to fill, and they are incapable of seeing that. Hey, maybe if you cut out all the crappy stuff that you do, maybe you could fill that void. You know what I mean? Maybe if you stop doing all the stuff that you think's fixing your stuff, and it's not fixing your stuff, maybe you'd be fine.
And also, it could be that I just like all the actors that they have in the True Knot, because Rebecca Ferguson does an amazing. To be fair, my knowledge and experience seeing her on screen is with the Mission Impossible films.
Yes, which she does a great job in those as well.
But at this point, there's not I don't really find there to be compelling characters in that. There's characters you like, and they do a good job. And the actors do a good job playing those people to the extent that they need to. So in this, she actually she's a fully fledged character, and she's complex and sinister, but in this way that's like a caged animal that doesn't know what to do, and it's just fighting for its life. I think that's what I mean by there's a moment of small empathy for them, because it feels they're a dying breed, and it's no, they're it's like vampires.
Right? They made themselves this way.
We don't want vampires anymore. Get rid of vampires. They're awful. That's not what they are, but you find out more about.
But
there
is some. I've seen them in reviews described as psychic vampires, and I think that's really true. But the thing you talked about kind of the confrontations in the mind, and it reminded me of Legion in a lot of ways, where finding creative ways to depict conflict in a mental space, but as opposed to Legion's just go for broke weirdness of where just like what does anything mean? You know what I mean? This has a more lyrical. There's moments of real lyricism and like thoughtfulness and just the way, and that's a dog right there. Yeah. She also wants to talk about Dr. Sleep.
She's fully hugging me right now from both sides.
The way I think it weaves its spell and weaves those stories together and doles out its information and builds, I found very engaging. And I've seen people complaining that it's not as scary as The Shining. And while this movie does have horror film aspects, I think it might be more accurate to label it as almost like a dark fantasy film. You know what I mean? But definitely... just you should know going in, and it's not The Shining.
It's not.
And even though it does, like, hey, remember, it's like, yeah, we all that. But I do like the way it uses specifically the Overlook and other aspects to tell its story. Mm-hmm. You know, as iconography to help fill out its story.
It feels like a tool in this to get to where our characters need to go.
Yeah,
and it's of course you see the iconic. Recreations of the sets, or they maybe went to the overlook and shot again.
And there's some that I think are direct clips from the original movie, and
with recreation, or literally they just 4K resolution it up. But also there's something like hauntingly beautiful with a blockbuster flair to it, where when it comes to the display of what The Shining means for certain individuals, because it can manifest differently.
Yes.
Overall, there's like your telepathy and there's like some things that are the same, but certain people can do things differently. And Rose specifically, there's a moment where she's searching for someone all over the globe, and she's able to extend herself out to look for them. And it's like this, it's like a hauntingly beautiful moment, because you're like, wow, like I wish I could do that, but also remember who this character is, and they're basically a predator. So they're not. They are a predator. They
are literally a predator.
Yeah, they are like an apex predator, and you need. We don't want her to succeed at what she's doing right now. But again, kind of comes back to Rebecca Ferguson. She does an amazing job with the performance, and so does Ewan McGregor. And I like that everyone in this movie has genuine relationships. And I think that's all they're bringing it back, where the True Knot they behave like a family.
Yeah, not great family.
Messed up, Hills Have Eyes type family, where it's like they're not good.
Yeah.
But also when it comes to Ewan McGregor and picking himself up by his bootstraps, Cliff Curtis is his main like lifeline in this movie.
Yeah.
He's playing Billy Freeman.
Yeah.
And their dynamic in it you've seen before, but it's the way it's captured by Mike Flanagan and with his adaptation. Also, of course, not to Stephen King, but we've seen some adaptations that haven't done quite a good job building up the relationships between people. I think Cliff Curtis and Ewan McGregor do a good job making you believe that their friendship.
100%. And I think that's a great way of saying a lot of this movie. I think a lot of elements in this movie are stuff you've seen before, but there's a grounding to it. And specifically, I think the performances and the directing lend it a weight that make it feel real and believable and lived in.
By the way, Violet McGraw, who you will recognize from Haunting of Hill House, has a small role in this.
Yes.
And her name is Violet in the movie. Oh. So Violet. Yeah, they have the same name. And also Carl Lumbly, he reprises a role that you're familiar with for Shining fans, and he does an amazing job. So whenever he's ever on screen, you kind of have this like warmth to his character. And overall, like I appreciated a horror movie that, there are jump scares, but there are genuine horror moments in this movie as well. But also you care about the characters, and not just like, this is like, I don't know. I guess the best way to say it is that there's like a warmth to the movie where I'm able to connect with a lot of our protagonists in ways that I haven't in other horror movies really ever. And also, since this is a blockbuster movie, like this isn't small scale. Like the Warner Brothers logo is the only logo that pops up. Not that they don't invest in indie movies, but like you can feel this. You can feel the scale of it from the trailers. Like this is a big deal. And throughout it, you're able to, like Haunting of Hill House and another Mike Flanagan property, you're able to understand these characters in this heightened scenario. And I have to praise it for that. And overall, like I was enthralled by the whole thing. I thought it was really interesting. Will seeing The Shining help you with the viewing experience? Probably.
I think it's
nod to the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror adaptation that helped me out.
I think it's kind of like a mixed bag, because on the one hand you might understand things better, but on the other hand, I think going in cold, you don't have The Shining to compare it to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You don't have that like that weight to worry about. And it is interesting because I know weirdly The Shining is one of the ones Stephen King is one of the adaptations Stephen King's more antagonistic to. And I think part of that is because that movie really doesn't focus on The Shining itself. It's more like Jack Torrance is going crazy and the mental deterioration there. This one, hey, if you missed The Shining stuff in The Shining, this one's all about The Shining. Yeah. So there's that for you.
And that feels you can feel the Stephen King-isms. But overall, I think this was a stellar. I'll call it a horror movie.
I don't know what other than maybe a dark fantasy. I don't know what else you'd call it.
You know what? I'll open this up to the comment section so you guys can figure it out. What is a horror movie? Because every time a scary movie comes out, they're like, "Yeah, that was
this
good.
isn't really
that wasn't a horror movie."
Yeah.
Name the last one that you saw that you would consider a horror movie, and then we'll figure it out from there. That being said, what would you rate
which is a horror movie? I would rate it a 9. I would rate it a 9. I would say like an A-, just because some of the most overt nods of The Shining feel a little forced, but not enough to like undo the things that really meant a lot to me in this movie. So I would give it a solid 9. What about you?
Yeah, I'd give it I think I'd give it like a 90% even. An A-, a 9.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, this might be one of the movies I've enjoyed most in theaters this year.
Mm-hmm. We're lucky enough to go see Knives Out, and that was a pleasure to watch. A delight, but in different circumstances, for different reasons. So was Dr. Sleep to watch. So, and it kind of makes me want to read the book.
Which family's worse? Let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah, they're both Bad News Bears. It's just a different way of filming them. But if you guys see Dr. Sleep, let us know in the comments down below. Highly recommend you check them out. Again, thank you to Collider for inviting us to the screening. It was wonderful. So if you guys want to attend those screenings too, and you're in the LA area, make sure you go check out Collider.com for more. And again, if you're a fan of The Shining, let us know which one you like better, the movie or the Simpsons version of it. DJ, where can people find you?
At DJ Talks Trash, every place that matters. How about you?
At Sam Basher, and of course at Only Stupid Answers on Twitter.
You got the vowels from stupid.
Patreon.com/Only Stupid Answers. As low as $5 a month, you can join our Discord. Free audio podcast where we dive into more movies, more TV shows, and also Super TV Showdown where we watch all the superhero shows so you don't have to. Don't worry, we got you covered. And also, if you want to support Winona, who you saw in this, consider checking out the Winona. Patreon. Also, drink some water. I know you haven't. It's early in the morning. I know you haven't drank enough water yet. Go drink some water.
Go drink some water.
And I'll see you next time.